Fake football shirts, it's a huge market, isn't it? Some can be found on retailers like Sports Direct as a remake, whilst others are seen on so many of the dodgy websites. But why are fans still being vilified for buying fake football shirts? I was listening to a podcast the other day on The Athletic. It was called The Underground World of Fake Football Shirts, and it was very interesting. Initially, I thought it was a balanced argument on showing the counterfeit underground world, but also why fans buy these shirts. But after maybe a minute or two of sound bites of them asking fans why they buy them, it just seemed to turn into a bit of a shaming piece on how unethical it is to buy these fake football shirts. It showed, and rightly showed, the underground world and how that can affect people and how it can fund criminal organisations and everything like that. But in my opinion, it just completely missed the mark. Call it what you want, fans buy fake football shirts because of the price. It isn't because fans like the smell, it isn't because we want our football shirts to fall apart in the rain. Clubs charge far too much for these football shirts. They release them season after season, sometimes with minimal changes, so fans are looking for a cheap alternative. Why did the music streaming industry start? Because fans were tired of paying £20 for the Beatles' 4th greatest hits album, so then they started legally streaming music. It wasn't because people preferred the hassle of downloading it on LimeWire and having to wait 2 hours for one song to download. It was because it was free and it was a lot cheaper than what the industry was charging. Fans don't want to have to buy fake football shirts and wait 6 weeks for a delivery, sometimes with no customer service, but they have to because the clubs are pricing them out of the game. But why does it still feel so taboo? Technically, it isn't actually illegal to buy a fake football shirt in the UK. It's illegal to sell them and distribute them, but it's not actually illegal to buy one. So those fake Chelsea shirts with Cole Palmer's name spelt wrong on it, you are actually not breaking the law. I mean, let's just look for an example. Liverpool, if you were a dad of two, if you wanted to buy the home shirts for yourself and your 2 kids, it would cost you £160 currently with the discounts. No socks, no shorts, no badges, no names. That's just literally for the Liverpool home shirt. You can buy a fake Liverpool top for probably less than £20 at the moment. So it's ridiculous why this thing is still a question. Why do we keep on seeing headlines? Why are fans moving towards fake shirts? Maybe the real question should be, why do football clubs think it's acceptable to release a shirt every single season with minimal changes sometimes, release special edition shirts when the sales are a bit low, and they are flogging that off to people who, it's a monopoly, isn't it? Because they know the fans want to be a part of the club, so they're going to buy it. And then the clubs and also the media have no shame in then shaming the consumer. It's tough because one of the biggest arguments I hear about fake football shirts and real football shirts, fans feel like they're supporting the clubs when they pay for the merchandise of the club. And that is an argument that I can understand. I totally understand fans wanting to feel connected, especially as a kid, because you want to feel like you are wearing the same shirt as Jude Bellingham. However, nowadays, and maybe it's just me being a bit cynical, if I was a Man United fan, in my mind, what am I supporting? The Glazers to take more money out of the club, funding ridiculous transfers and managers and sporting director decisions, and eventually funding a stadium that 90% of the fans will never have a chance in hell of attending. On the flip side, to argue against myself, if you are a lesser financially well-off club, then yeah, I do understand why fans will buy the merchandise, because if I'm a Wigan Athletic fan, a lot of those shirt sales will be going to fund the club and keeping it afloat. And unless the owner is an absolute criminal, I mean, maybe Wigan wasn't the best example of that, but a lot of the time that money will be going back into the club. For me, this isn't really my argument because it's not for me. Maybe I'm a bit too cynical about this. I think especially the top clubs nowadays, one, they're funded by absolute billionaires, so one, they don't really need your money, and two, unless it's being put back into the club. I mean, literally, in an ideal world, if a little kid bought a £60 top from Arsenal, every bit of money should be going back into the club. After Nike and or Adidas have taken a cut, the owner should not got any of that. That should all go back into the club. But it doesn't, does it? And we all know it doesn't. So that is why, to me, that argument isn't great, but I completely understand why people would want to do that. But let's talk about the quality of these fake football shirts and why fans are buying them. So this is an England top. It's a retro one. Got it from Sports Direct, £25. And yes, I only wear it when England are in a major tournament. And on the flip side, this is the Irish team top. And before anyone calls me a traitor, I have a lot of people in my family who are Irish, but this costs £60 and this is a real football top. Between the two of them, there is not much in it This is meant to be a retro football top, so the material is a bit different, it's a bit less lightweight than the Irish one. To be honest, if I just closed my eyes and felt these, I would not know the difference. That is one of the main things why the industry is booming at the moment, because it's no longer when you used to go on holiday to Mallorca and some lads on the strip were selling a Barcelona top. The badge might be a bit wonky, Messi's name might be spelt wrong, and it might just disintegrate when you put it in the wash. Nowadays, it's pretty much the same. On that podcast that I was listening to, they said the factory that they were investigating, it makes the fake tops and the real tops in the same building. So I think we lull ourselves that it's such a better quality. So like I say, quality, the argument of that is just going out of the window. Especially with people like Sports Direct selling these retro tops that aren't technically real, but they're essentially real, aren't they? They're the same quality, so fans are just buying that because they're so much cheaper. I did a video on retro shirts recently, and there is the argument that you want an authentic one. Again, completely understandable. But if you wanted one of the old Man City tops, you could either spend £100 on one of these authenticated websites, or you can spend £20 in a retailer. And if you aren't bothered about the difference, then I guarantee no one else is. So who loses? Because the consumer definitely doesn't. If you are cynical about football as me, then you're not bothered if the manufacturer like Nike or Adidas or the clubs lose out, because they rip fans off regardless. And if we're just parking the moral debate at the moment, I suppose it's the kit designers, because there are people who put their lives into this and they want to design the kit in the best way they see possible. And yet there is a tiny bit of sympathy for those guys, because if you work so hard on something and you just see it being ripped off constantly by loads of people making a profit on your work, then yeah, I'm sure it can be really difficult. The only thing I'd say to that is that yes, in some cases, but I've seen a Tottenham shirt that is just a white shirt. So who's designing that? And then where do you get on your high ground to go, well, you're ripping off my design? Because you could go to a primary school and ask them to design the new Spurs shirt, and they'd probably design the exact same thing. And also, just finish on kit designers, I suppose if the fakes are becoming so real nowadays, then essentially your design is still in the public. A lot of them aren't going to earn commission off these football shirts. So then you're still getting your work noticed by people, it's just not going to the people who essentially hire you. The criminal underground part, yes, fair enough, it's putting money back into criminal organisations, criminal activity, and sometimes the way they transfer these tops can be very dangerous and cost people their lives. Completely understandable. However, where do you take a stand? Because if you wanted, you could find an ethically challenging point with nearly every popular brand in popular culture. The FIFA series or EAFC, well, they push gambling on little kids. That is maybe one of the worst things that has happened in the last 10 years that just seems to be accepted. The game is being flooded with billionaires who, ethically, if you look into the background, it's ridiculous. FIFA, the people who are in charge of the World Cup, maybe the greatest tournament ever to exist, it's riddled with corruption. So why draw the line at fake shirts? And it's similar because why are people drawing the line with piracy, with illegal streaming? Because it's the exact same as dodgy fire sticks, which I'm sure no one watching this video has one, I don't, but the broadcasters are labelling everyone criminals, whilst they're charging extortionate prices for us to watch 22 men kick a ball around a field of grass. Business of football loves the game of Monopoly because they know they can capitalise on it, but when the game is stacked against them and when the consumers have a bit of an advantage, then that's when it's unfair, and that's when we need to stop playing the game and everyone's a criminal. It's this constant thing of all these people in these higher up positions of football. They're all scratching their heads going, why are people not buying our football shirts as much? Why are people not subscribing to Sky and TNT and Amazon as much? Instead of looking inside and realising that they're charging far too much money on this, they just push the issue outwards and just blame everyone else. Brentford, for example, they have started releasing kits every 2 years. One for sustainability, so also they aren't constantly charging the fans every single season. Why don't other clubs do this? Well, obviously the answer is because of money, and then they'll always say, well, if you want Kylian Mbappe, if you want Vinicius Jr to join the Premier League, then we need to charge these prices. One, I don't believe that's true. I think they're essentially gaslighting the public into thinking that. And two, I think a lot of fans will prefer not to have these higher ticket prices, not to have these ridiculous subscriptions, and be able to support the club in the way they want to support it and not feel like they're getting ripped off. Should fake football shirts be around forever? No, I'm not saying that. Real football shirts should lower in price so the average Joe can buy them and it doesn't push them onto sometimes these illegal websites where it can be really dodgy and sometimes people can lose their money. It's simple, isn't it? Lower the prices and the customers will come back to the recognised professional sites and they'll buy them straight from the club. They never will, so fake football shirts will just increase. But what do you think? Do you think fans should be buying fake football shirts? Do you think they are criminals for buying them? I mean, technically they're not. And do you think it is harming some clubs? I'm sure it could be harming some clubs, but I also think Man United spending 80 million on Antony is also harming the club 10 times more than Steve down the pub getting a Man United shirt off his mate. But let me know what you think. If you could leave a like, leave a comment below. If you subscribe, that'd be great. If you could check out my recent videos, that'd be really appreciated. But thanks for watching.